brought in a new team that has been tackling these issues to make sure that wait times for scheduling, access to providers is greatly improved. But what we know is that there is still more work to do.
Our guest is spokesperson for Concerned Veterans for America, a Gold Star mother and founder of the For Our Son website dedicated to the memory of her son who served his country proudly as a Navy SEAL. Karen Vaughn joins us once again on MidPoint. Karen, it's a pleasure to talk to you again.
Pleasure to be here with you, Ed. Thanks so much.
My pleasure. The president goes to Phoenix. He says that basically the VA secretary is making progress. Do you believe him?
No, veterans aren't seeing any progress. What we're seeing is more protection of the status quo bureaucratic system that has become the debacle, the black mark on our nation's history.
What is it then that the president doesn't seem to get? Because let's sort of bring this down a little bit here. The president is one man. He is, of course, where the buck stops in everything. But he is going to say that basically it takes time. You cannot unravel and fix decades of mismanagement in a short period of time. Is he fooling the American public? Or again, is he being serious that it's so run with graft that it's going to take time?
You know, I wish I could read his mind, and I certainly can't speak for what is on this president's conscious, thoughts. But I can say this, that what came out of that visit to the Phoenix VA, the epicenter of the debacle, the uncovering of that nearly 40, probably up to 40 people lost their lives while being hidden on secret wait lists. I'm sure your audience is very familiar with what has happened in these VA scandals. But, I guess if the veteran wants to believe that this president is serious, I guess not even as a spokesperson for Concerned Veterans for America, but just as a mother of a soldier and a patriot who loves those who have served, I want to know why we're forming another committee right now. I want to know why Concerned Veterans for America wasn't invited to the table when we held a bipartisan summit last month on real solutions for VA reform. And I can tell you what we're seeing in this VA reform. We're seeing an all-out halt on moving forward with reform because the bureaucratic status quo has things like they like them. They're throwing more money, more people are getting bonuses, the status quo continues, and the veterans continue to suffer. Veterans have been surveyed, Ed, we'll share some of those numbers with you if you like, but veterans have been surveyed and they are not being given what they want. And even though Concerned Veterans for America and the American Legion and some other pertinent organizations across this country put their great minds together and created real reform, the Veterans Administration does not want to implement it because it breaks down the way they do things. And look, change is hard.
Is this simply, in your opinion then, Karen, is this simply just, whether it's the president or anybody else on down, this is nothing more than a cover-up?
I think that's exactly what it is. I don't think there's any real reform. Our president's motorcade drove right by the Phoenix VA in January. It was shameful that that he was right there and drove right past that VA. And I believe that what he needed right now was a good photo op to push the message across to the American people that he does actually care. But look, if he really cared, he would be doing something. He wouldn't be forming another committee. He passed the legislation in August of last year. He signed legislation that Concerned Veterans for America had a large part in writing. He signed that. And his statement when he signed that bill, his statement was, our country keeps the promises that we've made to everybody who signs up to serve. And he acted like he was proud of that bill, the Veterans Access, Choice, and Accountability Act. And yet it seems like this administration is doing everything they can to put the brakes on actually rolling this program out. It's all talk. It's no do. And while we're talking, veterans are dying. And if I could just share, I've been on the road a lot talking to veterans as we've had our 2014 Defend Freedom Tour, the 2013 Defend Freedom Tour with Concerned Veterans for America.
I got about 30 seconds and then we got to take a break, Karen. 30 seconds. Go ahead.
I can't tell you how many people I've met who have this story. My buddy or my husband or somebody I love went to the VA saying that they were suicidal, and the VA said, I'll see you in 6 months. It's not acceptable to form another committee at this point. 6 months ago, this scandal broke. It is time to have some real reform, Ed. No more talk. Let's get something done. No more committees. Let's make this happen. People are dying.
All right, now the CVA, I know, has had something to say about that. You've had your own ideas, plus we've got some numbers coming out of Los Angeles that I think are quite frightening. We're going to take a break, come back. Karen, please hold on for a couple of moments, if you will. The president and various mouthpieces all say they want to and will reform the Veterans Administration. They have been spouting this now for years. This doesn't just go to the Obama administration. This goes back even farther than that. Next up, one solution no one seems to care about looking into. Maybe because it's too easy. It's coming up next, right here on MidPoint.
The truth is that while thousands of Arizona veterans continue to experience unacceptable delays in VA care, the Obama administration has been slow and reluctant to fundamentally reform VA operations, and today's roundtable, to which leading veteran service organizations were not even invited, served more as a photo op for the president than it did a meaningful discussion.
Back to work and joined by spokesperson for Concerned Veterans of America. She and her husband, Billy, tireless in their watchdog efforts of the VA and how this current administration is failing to make substantive change. Karen Vaughn returns to MidPoint. Karen, I want to pick up a little bit where we just left off. And again, what John McCain is saying there is absolutely true. According to CNN in a recent story, thousands of veterans, patients at the VA Greater LA healthcare system have been waiting months for an appointment, 90 days to be addressed. It shows more than 12,000 appointments. The VA calls them consults, waiting more than 90 days to be addressed as of mid-January. And they're now making people actually drive 30, 40, 50 miles in order to get their health care. This is absolutely stunningly ridiculous. How is it allowed to continue, and why is nobody listening to the veterans themselves?
You know, that you made such a good point. Do you know 77% of veterans that we've surveyed have said that they prefer choice, even if it means paying some out of pocket. These numbers are incontrovertible. 90% of veterans polled say that there need to be serious reform to the VA. And you know, one mantra that we've developed as an organization is veterans chose to serve their country. Why can't they choose their doctor? I don't think most Americans are aware, Ed, of how ridiculous these policies are. After our legislation was signed in August, we rolled out a program, called the Veterans Choice Program, where we sent Veterans Choice cards. And here's what happened. The VA, because this bureaucracy is so gridlocked, it is so frustrating to me, I want to scream, but because it's so gridlocked, they have scrambled to make sure this system fails. They do not want veterans to be able to seek care outside of the VA.
Why, Karen, though? I mean, seriously, why, though? Because it would seem that if they're veterans and they have a medical condition, you want to get them treated. So what would be their reasoning for not wanting them to get served?
You are hitting the nail on the head of the message Concerned Veterans for America has been screaming for several years now, and that is the bureaucracies want to maintain their power, they want to maintain their money, they are not concerned with veterans' health care. If they were, we would not have this problem. You know, they missed deadlines for mailing out the cards, they issued confusing and overly stringent criteria. As you mentioned, you know, the veterans, they gave them a 40-mile radius. Okay, if your VA is more than 40 miles away from your home, you can seek service from your local provider. But then they said, as the crow flies. How ridiculous is that? Something can be 40 miles away from me, Ed, and take me 2 hours to get to it, depending on traffic. These are ludicrous restrictions. The card holders, and just think of what our veteran population looks like. They have to call a toll-free number and follow a series of prompts before they can ever speak to a representative, which in some cases is taken more than an hour. These are people at sometimes who are seriously sick, and these are the hoops they're being forced to jump through, because the VA does not want their bureaucratic brotherhood demolished, and it must be demolished and rebuilt. Nothing this sick can be fixed by small changes. It has to be demolished and rebuilt.
Karen, I got about 90 seconds left here. The CVA, the Concerned Veterans of America, recently has a proposal out which would put the veterans rather than the VA in charge of the health care. Why would this be better, and what would the government, other than just giving up their power, fear from this proposal?
I think that the power is the greatest fear. I think there are a lot of people who are making a living off of the backs of the veterans in this bureaucracy. I think the good thing about it would be the people who have served this nation, can actually get the health care we promised them when they put their name on that dotted line. It's not too much to ask. And as I've said many times before, what's happening in our VA right now is a black mark on America's history, excuse me. We have got to get this fixed. Concerned Veterans for America has solutions. The American Legion has solutions. The president does not want to hear solutions, neither does the VA. They want to continue in their locked arm, stiff-necked strategy of failure and complacency while the veteran suffers, and it's not acceptable any longer. Americans need to scream out.
We want to make a note here that last August, in case anybody would forget, Congress passed their emergency VA reform package. It was $16.3 billion. $10 billion to be used to provide timely private sector medical care for veterans. 30 seconds left, Karen. They failed miserably, haven't they?
They have. We had that much increase in spending in the VA. We had over 100,000 new employees added to the VA, and yet wait list numbers have increased. Backlogs have increased because the issue, the true root of the issue, is not being addressed. There must be radical reform.
It is something that I promised a long time ago when this story broke that we would continue to cover, because coming from a family with a member of the military, it astounds me, and also I find it despicable the way that they treat our American military and our men and women who come home. We're going to continue to carry this story, and we're going to continue to cover it with you as well. Karen Vaughn, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Good luck. We'll talk with you again soon.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. America finds itself in something of a military quandary, though, at the moment, one that has to do with the level of those who are putting on the uniform and protecting America. And the word is not very positive. We'll focus on that when MidPoint continues.